Which age groups are most nostalgic for the 1980s? If you're wondering which age groups are feeling the most nostalgic for the 1980s, you're about to find out some interesting facts. Let's take a trip back in time to understand who is leading this nostalgia wave. First off, it's not just the people who lived through the 1980s who are nostalgic for this decade. Surprisingly, younger generations are also deeply nostalgic for this era. Gen Z, born between 1997 and 2006, and Millennials, born between 1981 and 1996, are at the forefront of this nostalgia trend. Gen Z in particular shows a strong affinity for the 1980s, even though many of them weren't born until after the decade ended. According to recent studies, 15% of Gen Z prefer thinking about the past rather than the future, and this preference is slightly higher than that of Millennials, who stand at 14%. When it comes to media, Gen Z leads the way with 50% feeling nostalgic for types of media from the 1980s, closely followed by 47% of Millennials. This nostalgia extends to various aspects of 1980s culture, including music, fashion, and even technology. Music plays a significant role in this nostalgia. Gen Z and Millennials often listen to 1980s music as a form of escapism. Platforms like TikTok have helped revive old songs, making them popular again among younger audiences. For instance, the resurgence of Fleetwood Mac's Dreams after a viral TikTok video is a clear example of how social media can fuel nostalgia. In many countries, the nostalgia for the 1980s is evident in various forms. In the UK, for example, there are dedicated radio stations like Heart 80s and Absolute Radio 80s, and TV shows like Ashes to Ashes that cater to this nostalgia. Similarly, in Germany, there is a strong nostalgia for 1980s music and culture, with artists like Nina and the Scorpions still being celebrated. The reasons behind this nostalgia are varied. For many, the 1980s represent a simpler, more carefree time, especially in contrast to the stressful and uncertain world of today. The decade's vibrant culture, from glam metal to neon fashion, continues to captivate younger generations who find comfort and inspiration in its retro appeal. So, if you're curious about who's driving the 1980s nostalgia, it's clear that Gen Z and Millennials are at the heart of it. Their love for the music, fashion, and overall vibe of the 1980s is keeping this decade alive and vibrant in contemporary culture.